The new academic year from August 2021 will allow students enrolled in the Faculty of Engineering as well as the School of Design and Environment to take courses from both schools in order to develop competencies across different fields. And this means students in both schools get to enjoy greater choice, breadth and flexibility in charting their learning journeys.
So what sparked the creation of a distinctive common curriculum? What gaps does it seek to plug for students, and how can the industry stand to benefit from the changes in curriculum? Let's speak now with two deans from the National University of Singapore.
I'm privileged to introduce them to us. They are Professor Aaron Thean, who is Dean of the NUS Faculty of Engineering, and Professor Thean is joined by Professor Lam Khee, who is Dean of the NUS School of Design and Environment. Professors, thank you for your time today. We'll begin with Professor Thean. Professor Thean, you're from the NUS Faculty of Engineering, where you're Dean. Now, the faculty and also the School of Design and Environment, which is headed up by Professor Lam, you've launched a new curriculum for your students, and one major change is a common curriculum that students from both schools will have to read. Now, under this common curriculum, there's a new set of 7 interdisciplinary modules. They are jointly offered by both the schools. Tell us more about what are the motivations behind this new introduction, this change in curriculum.
Yes. Hey, good morning, Stanley and Lynn, and to your listeners. Thanks for having us. So, as your question about what the motivations behind this change is in terms of a common curriculum is really to ride on this motion to basically scale up interdisciplinary learning at NUS, and so this also basically leverages a lot of the natural synergies already existing between the Faculty of Engineering and our School of Design and Environment. And the goal is really to to bring up and develop a new basically generation of interdisciplinary engineers as designers to basically address some of the big challenges out in the workplace to come.
Professor Thean, could you go into detail about the implications for prospective engineers and designers?
Yes, I think the two approaches that, in terms of perspective for engineers and designers, is really to bring up engineers and designers who can actually speak languages that cross the boundaries, the classical boundaries in the discipline. So basically, we want to be able to develop both what we call specialists, people who can go deep in their discipline, as well as generalists and integrators, who are actually technologists or designers who can look at the big picture and integrate teams together.
Professor Lam, your colleague, is also on the line with us, and he is Dean of the NUS School of Design and Environment. Professor Lam, what are your thoughts on the implications also for the designers that come through your school?
Well, good morning, Stanley and Lynn. Thank you for having me on the line as well. Let me preface by saying that SDE parallels really the nation building in Singapore. We produce more than 17,000 alumni, that touches on everything we see in Singapore in terms of the built environment. And so we need to make a reference that, in all these processes, there is really no perceived gap between architectural practices and engineering practices. It is really a synergistic activity. If you look back into history, and this is something that I would really encourage prospective interested students to really look at some of the historical, landmarks that dates back thousands of years to see that, in fact, the people who created those artifacts do have this combined skill set of architectural design and engineering. So this will really set a good sort of mindset for the students who would like to embark in an academic career with us in SDE and in engineering.
I'm just wondering if some of these changes are the result of perhaps feedback from students. Were there suggestions from them that there were some gaps that needed to be filled, or that they were requesting for this need for a common curriculum? Professor Thean?
Yes, actually that's an interesting question. To be honest, yes, we do. We get feedback from both our, basically our alumni as well as their employers. One of the things to highlight is that, the technological issues and problems to solve is getting more complex. And so I think there is a demand for engineers who actually could work across different disciplines within engineering, as well as employers who actually desire to build multidisciplinary teams. And so those skill sets hopefully can be imparted to our next generation of engineers through this new program that we are offering.
Professor Lam, anything to add?
Yeah, I think the importance of not just learning the skills that students as well as potential employers constantly remind us the importance of broadening the exposure and experience to real-world challenges and not just remaining as an academic exercise. So the ability to understand the big picture, to understand the problem statement, and then to create ultimate solutions for the challenges ahead. And most importantly, at the end, is to communicate them effectively to the various stakeholders. That, I think, is something that we've been very mindful of in terms of feedback.
I also understand that the new curriculum provides more choices and flexible pathways for students. Professor Thean, can you tell us more about how students can make use of this flexibility to enhance their undergraduate education and also enhance the value of their degrees?
Yep. Yeah. One of the main things that we offer is now multiple pathways. I think the curriculum at engineering has always been evolving, and I think this is the first time unprecedented that we're offering over 50-plus minors and specialization options, and even 35-plus different types of second major options. So effectively, the students can build different programs that suits their aspirations in terms of career. For example, a student can definitely choose, let's say, a classical discipline in civil engineering, and then pair that with project management, or another minor in architectural studies. And so the students who graduate from this program will be highly versatile in terms of their background and skills.
So, in other words, the degree of how specialized they want to be or not, it really lies with them.
That's correct.
Right. Yep. Professor Lam, your thoughts on this?
Yeah. Creating the built environment is, in fact, a life cycle process. We have to appreciate that it starts with a concept, an idea, and then you develop it, and then you implement it, you build it. And after having built it, you still have to operate it continuously for decades in some cases. So we need to always think of the engagement in that industry as this life cycle process. And therefore, the graduates should, first of all, have an overview, understanding of the entire life cycle. And as they want to choose to, quote-unquote, specialize in whatever the process is, then they still are able to understand what is, before and what is after in that continuum. And I think that will give it a very, very strong sort of engagement and effectiveness in dealing with the entire built environment in a sustainable and also in a resilient way.
We are hearing from Professor Lam Khee Po, Dean of the NUS School of Design and Environment, and also with us is Professor Aaron Thean, who is Dean of the NUS Faculty of Engineering. We're getting to understand more about the interdisciplinary program that's being made available to students of these two schools and faculties. And among the common curriculum pillars would be design thinking, systems thinking, AI, also looking at creating narratives and project management among them. Now, we want to also talk about how some students, Professor Thean and Professor Lam, may be concerned that their professional training, whether it be engineers or as architects, for example, may become less rigorous following this curriculum change. Is there a place for students perhaps who want to be a specialist? How will this new curriculum benefit this group of students? Professor Thean.
Yes, I think that there's a misconception that there is, because of this broad-based component that we added into the curriculum would actually make it less rigorous, which is not true. Actually, with this new framework for our educational curriculum, in fact, we unshackled much of the restrictions that were there before. In fact, students can choose to go very deep, and we have specializations that are now offered that's not been offered before. For instance, in Internet of Things, artificial intelligence, and robotics, so they can go as deep as they want to, and so that they gain deep expertise in this area, as well as students who wants to be technologists, and they are being offered options to build programs that have additional majors and minors, and this may include management and economics. So in fact, what has changed is that we've given them a lot more freedom to choose and to address the different types of career out there.
Professor Lam, you agree with that?
Yes, I totally agree. As I said, the important point about teaching and learning is to be able to focus the attention, right, and to what is the means and what are the ends. If you just do it as a standalone, isolated subject, you may get only a part of the story and you get a part of the knowledge, but you may be missing on, say, the translation or the application side. So the new curriculum really provides that comprehensive platform that balances and optimizes between theory and application. And with all the pillars, there is still this sort of project-based learning. This is really, really important because it focuses on real-world problems by and large, and then it brings the teams of students together to apply their knowledge, whether they are engineers or project managers or architects or industrial designers, to address that problem, working together, trying to simulate, how the real-world working conditions and expectations may be. So that's something that is going to truly enrich the whole experience as compared to more kind of, standalone and isolated type of learning in the past.
Thus far, we have spoken about how much value it will bring to students undertaking this program. And we know that education is only a means to an end. The end, of course, would be the day of graduation, the day of joining the workforce. How do you see the industry benefiting from these changes in the curriculum when your students graduate, when they become part of our workforce? Professor Thean.
I think as you can see today, the problems that the industry is tackling is increasingly more complex, and they usually interact between social concerns, business, as well as technology. So I think the curriculum that we are offering basically allow the students to pick up necessary background to tackle these problems. So they come in with a strong understanding of these different issues broadly across these different aspects. Now, in addition, I think what to be highlighted is that within our common curriculum, we have introduced specific modules that address, community and engagement, sustainable futures, in addition to the so-called technical aspects of learning, right? Design thinking, makerspace, or systems thinking, and artificial intelligence. So there's a very nice complementary set of basically knowledge that they will pick up throughout their program with us. And I think these background will be useful for these graduates to contribute substantially once they make it out in the real world and working for these companies.
And Professor Lam, could you share some examples of how graduates have benefited from these changes in curriculum?
Sure. One thing we again need to perhaps reflect on is even as we solicit, feedback from the industry and from the students as to what they are looking for and what their expectations are, we need to be also mindful that those expectations might only be current, right, or applicable to the current situation. Remembering that our education of the graduates is to prepare them for a long future, not just for the next, 3 years, 5 years. And I think this other dimension of it is so important so that the students, the graduates, can in fact be agile to address, changing needs, unforeseen needs. I think the pandemic, for example, gave us a very, very good example, right, of that challenge. And now graduates that we have been teaching in the past, teaching them about indoor air quality, teaching them about health, even before the pandemic, if I may add. prepared them very well. And now they are fully being able to engage, all right, in tackling the problems here in Singapore, particularly, and in order to do all this redesign, social distancing, etc., etc. So we see that benefit. Remembering now that we need to prepare for the future. We don't know what the future might be. So therefore, the graduates need to have that mindset, that agility, and that ability to continue to learn, to tackle, the next challenge. Could be another pandemic, could be, and it will be climate change, for example. That is all existential challenges that we will face in the future. And we hope that our common curriculum will give them a very strong foundation so that they will continue to learn, even, after they graduate.
Thank you so much, and for reminding us how interconnected so many fields are, and in an increasingly complex world at that as well. We have been hearing from Professor Lam Khee, who is Dean of the NUS School of Design and Environment, and Professor Aaron Thean, who is Dean of the NUS Faculty of Engineering. If you'd like to find out more about what's being offered by both the Faculty of Engineering at NUS and the NUS School of Design and Environment, these are the websites. That's eng.nus.edu.sg for the NUS Faculty of Engineering, and for the School of Design and Environment, their website is sde.nus.edu.sg. Find out more about NUS undergraduate admissions at nus.edu/apply. Thank you, professors, for joining us.
Thank you, Stanley. Thank you, Lynn.
Yes, thank you.
Career Compass, in partnership with the National University of Singapore.